In today's Farm Report, eligible farmers and ranchers are voting in the Farm Service Agency County Committee elections that run now through December 7th. Rod Bain with the U.S. Department of Agriculture has more.
Election Day may have come and gone across the country. However, from now until December 7th,
there are about 2 million producers around the nation who are currently eligible to vote.
Farmers and ranchers, that is, according to the administrator of USDA's Farm Service Agency, Val Docini. This year's FSA County Committee election ballots have made or are making their way to the mailboxes of those producers eligible to vote. As in every year, 1/3 of the nation's 7,700 county committee seats will be up for election in 2015.
And folks who aren't familiar with the county committee process, these are important bodies for every county office around the nation, and county committee members apply their unique and local knowledge and judgment to help FSA offices make important decisions about our various commodity programs, our conservation programs, loan programs, etc.
Terms are staggered, with FSA County Committee members serving 3 years in office. And Dolcini says as far as voter qualifications,
to be eligible, you've got to be a farmer or rancher who supervises and conducts the farming operations of an entire farm. You don't necessarily have to be 18, which is the legal voting age in this country, to do that. You simply have to meet that other criteria.
The administrator says county committee members serve the producers they work with and assist the local FSA office in ways both big and small.
It could be hearing an appeal about an adverse program decision. It could be helping local county office staff do outreach to new customers. It's a relationship-based entity within our county office system, and so we really rely on the men and women who make up our county committees around the nation to help with lots of different things.
Once the December 7th ballot deadline passes, the tabulation of results take place, and newly elected county committee members take office on January 1st.
So of the 2 million, we hope that many of those folks participate in this year's elections.
And Dolcini advises producers casting ballots for this year's county committee elections to submit them at local FSA offices as soon as possible.
We really want to make sure that if you've taken the time to cast a ballot, that ballot is indeed counted. And so if you're in the vicinity of your county office, just bring that ballot by and they'll put it in the ballot box for you.
I'm Rod Bain reporting for the U.S. Department of Agriculture in Washington, D.C. There was a mixed bag of adjustments in the latest USDA monthly crop production reports compared to last month. The November reports released Tuesday show corn production across the country up less than 1% from October. Even with the slight uptick in production, this year's corn crop is still expected to be the third largest on record and to produce the second largest yield ever. Soybean production is now forecasted up 2% month over month, with yield forecast now expected to average just over a bushel more than last month's estimate. This increase in production contributes to greater supplies and lower prices for corn and soybeans. The season-ending average price for corn is now at $3.65 a bushel at the midpoint, and for soybeans at $8.90 a bushel at the midpoint. Cotton production forecasts are now down less than 1% from last month, with yield estimates down 56 pounds from last year. Meanwhile, for the nation's orange crop, production estimates have been lowered again, this time down 5% from the previous month, due in large part to an 8% reduction in Florida's all-orange forecast from October. I'm Rod Bain reporting for the U.S. Department of Agriculture in Washington, D.C.
The final U.S. agricultural trade numbers are out for fiscal year 2015. Gary Crawford has this to say.
A year ago last August, Agriculture Department analysts made their first forecast for U.S. ag exports for the 2015 fiscal year, which would start that October.
We're forecasting that at $144.5 billion.
By December, they had pared that down somewhat to
$143.5 billion.
And then in February, they cut that down again to
$141.5 billion.
And then at the end of May,
$140.5 billion.
And now we know how the export year actually turned out.
$139.7 billion.
And so we've gone from $152 billion in 2014 and from $144.5 billion expectation for 2015 early on, and we've seen those expectations dashed to a mere $139.7 billion. So sad.
It's maybe not as depressing as all that.
No, it's not. That's Agriculture Department economist Bryce Cook. He says, yes, we're down $12 billion from last year's most incredible export year ever.
But if you go back to 2013, you were at $141.1 billion. So it's kind of more in line with what the numbers were previous to the huge boom in exports in 2014.
And actually, tonnage of shipments total were only down about 3% from a year ago, values down 8%. So what happened that brought us down so much in value? Well, farmers know one of the answers right off the bat. Prices for many commodities have dropped. Sometimes that prompts foreign customers to buy more, but we had a couple of things working against that. One involves the economies of those countries reflected in their gross domestic product.
GDP growth abroad is down, so you have a lower appetite for trade, and that trade volume was at 1.6% growth this year, which is way down on a 7% average from previous years.
But also this past year, almost every producing country had very good harvests, and so
There's so much competition from all these other countries who are increasing their supply.
So goodbye, FY 2015. That's behind us. Surely now, Bryce, things are going to pick up in this new trading year, right?
There won't be substantial improvements in the economic atmosphere across the world. Unit values will remain, by and large, relatively weak. So that will be a continuing issue for trade and exports.
How much of an issue? Well, the USDA will issue its new export forecast for this fiscal year December 1st. Stay tuned to this station for that, and hopefully we won't have to use this sad music at that time. We'll see, though. In Washington, Gary Crawford for the U.S. Department of Agriculture. Most industry analysts were expecting the Agriculture Department to raise its yield and production estimates for corn and soybeans in its Tuesday report, but
In both cases, those will, cause the trade to be perhaps a little surprised.
because the increases were bigger than the trade expected, USDA's chief economist Rob Johansson, yes, USDA took the corn yield estimate up 1.3 bushels an acre, which was above most industry estimates by a little bit. USDA really surprising folks by raising the soybean yields up over a bushel, total production up 2%, and the obvious effect.
Probably lower prices going forward.
Certainly, the markets went down after the USDA report. December corn dropping 7 cents, November soybeans losing 13. Johansson told us as far as USDA's price projections for the year,
We're bringing our prediction down for soybeans by about a quarter a bushel, so that brings it down to a midpoint range of $8.90. On corn, we brought our price for corn down by about 15 cents at the midpoint.
to an average $3.65 a bushel. Gary Crawford for the U.S. Department of Agriculture, Washington.